professional learning institutions. The only institutions or university institutions that we had were state universities, and it was such a refreshing oil, it was such a jewel. But today, it appears as though professional learning institutions are the ones with the magic wand to make things happen. There have been divergent school of thought vis-a-vis the influx of professional learning institution in Cameroon, while other scholars are critically against the notion of inducting several other professional schools because it is adding no value. There is still a high scale of unemployment. Other people think that professional institutions get the magic wand or get to shape or change perspective and teach scholars on how to be job creators and not just job seekers. You watching, what do you think? And that is what matters is all about this beautiful evening. And in case you're watching and you think you're missing out on a lot, then you've not missed out on a lot, because we just got started. And the program on board, we are talking about professional learning institutions and asking ourselves whether or not they have the magic wand for employment in Cameroon. My name is Mabel Camden for introduction. I'm thanking you for watching. I came with a plethora of different faces that are going to be joining me, holding my hands, and alongside a very amazing guest that is going to be seasoning this program this evening. And in case you're watching and you intend to stay through to the end, then you have quite a lot to benefit from the program this beautiful evening. From my extreme right, we have Mr. Tambe Henry, who is the president of EYAGLA, and he is a societal scientist. You're very much welcome.
Thank you very much, Mabel. Thank you, dear panelists. Thank you to our fellow viewers. I want to plead with you to stay glued to your TV to the end of this program, and why not even the rest of the programs that will follow the evening, because you're going to learn why we have private or professional schools in Cameroon and their benefits. And those of you who have passed through that milieu, I think you are going to also understand if you stand a better chance for employment or not. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tambe Henry. And of course, just to mention that beside being the president of EYAGLA, he is also the president of Tambe Higher Institute, or is it a professional institute?
Yeah, in Sorti, Nyukichen, Secretarial Office Training Institute. It's
Okay.
in Sorti, Cameroon.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
that is fine. And also joining him, adding his voice and making this program stretch for the next 1 hour, 45 minutes or so, is also somebody who is a regular face on the program, Mr. Musa. You're welcome. I get to miss out on the other name every time.
Yeah, thank you very much, Marvin. Good evening, fellow viewers. It's a great pleasure being here again for Matters, which of course is one of the very important programs that we have. If not in Buyam, Cameroon in general, one of the most watched programs that we have. And the topic today is very vital for us to see what the higher institutions are offering to Cameroonians out there. It's a great pleasure to sit again with Mr. Tambe after a very long time.
Yeah.
I'm very happy and pleased to meet other panelists, and hopefully we are going to share the 2 hours together and see how we can benefit Cameroonians.
Thank you so much, Mr. Musa. And just to mention that he is a socio-political analyst and, of course, an educationist in Grandeur. And he's here to make sure that the program has all the pomp, the pageantry, and the weight that it so much deserves. Thank you so much for coming. We don't take your presence here for granted. And talking about somebody who has presence, there is always a special kind of person who carries all the temperature and all the beautiful aura and all the condiments that is needed for such a program. We have Mr. Ndumbe Lyonga, who is a culturalist, a folklore writer, and a die-hard educationist. Sir, you're very much welcome.
Thank you, Mabel. Thank you, fellow TV viewers. Dear panelists, I'm glad to be here today. I know we are going to at least come up with something, because it is really a problem, and it's a problem in the society we need to be investigated and see how beneficial it is. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. And of course, when we want to talk about one of the individuals who tend to propagate culture and make sure that the values of culture is not eroded, if there is one person which comes to mind, especially within the Southwest region, then we know that there is somebody from the Mokwelan who is no other person than Mr. Ndumbe Liunga. You are here today and you are bringing in the multifaceted nature of you. You're going to be sitting in on the guest corner and likewise trailing the conversation that we have on the podium this evening. And I hope that your little cent today is going a long way to educate young people like myself who thought a while back or many years ago that learning your vernacular is a way of, dampening your self-esteem, or it's a way that comes to demean your personality or something. And I hope that today you're going to be reforming the mindset of many young people who are lagging behind as far as learning their culture and getting a glimpse of what culture is all about is concerned. You are one of those people who are at the helm of, seeing that professional education is at that pedestal where it gets the steam, the stamina, and the value that it so much deserves. Is it because you're coming from a place where you went through professional institutions, or is it because you have resorted to creating a professional institution yourself? Where is this ambition coming from? To begin with, Mr. Tambe.
Oh, thank you so much, Mabel. Thank you so much for that question. I think I'll start with my foundation. UB being my trainer, especially from the Faculty of Education, which is a mother faculty in UB, without any bias, because that is a faculty where they train trainers. And being in the Faculty of Education for more than 13 years now, because I'm rounding up with my PhD, I have learned a lot when it comes to education and building programs, because we are being trained to go out there to develop programs, to develop training content for universities, for private universities, and so on. I would like to first of all start my rapport with the different kind of educational systems we have. Like you said in your intro, we have state universities, we have private universities, and we have conventional universities, which the private and the conventional now fall under the professional universities. Now, I might not have studied in a private universities, but we believe that there is one thing that brings us in common. What is that? Content. The teaching program. That is what brings every learner in common. Now, what you study and what I study might be different, and that is where the word professional comes, because what they study, they believe that is more professional oriented than what we are studying in UB. I would take, for instance, maybe Catholic University, without any publicity, is offering education. And you take some of us who studied in UB, they might think they are more professional than us. What makes them professional? And these are some of the signs that the government have begun to see, that if you call yourself a professional, there are some things, there are some attributes you're supposed to portray after your training, compared to that person who went through a state university. But now you ask me a question, am I in what I'm doing because I went through a private university? I said no. But as a professional, what we are looking at today, like I said, their content. If their content is well drafted, is well coined, it suits the objective of what that program is supposed to produce, that is the product at the end of the day, then they should be called professionals. Might be, some of them might think that if you are doing engineering, computer science, you are called professional. No, it is according to the content and according to how the program was drafted from the beginning with the objectives of the program. That is what gives you the prerogative to be called a professional. It's not even the school, because a lot of self-sponsored individuals call themselves promoters of universities or proprietors out there, are making money out of these youths, out of these children, out of these parents. You come, you set up a structure, you give it a name, you call it a professional school. It is not professional. It is not the school. It is the content. What has been drafted from the beginning, the objective, and at the end of the day, if the students follow suit and they round up with that program, they are supposed to be professionals. And what are they supposed to do with that knowledge?
Now, you are talking about content, and if you're emphatic on the fact that what makes a professional institution professional is not just the name, like we see a lot of beautiful names around, or the packaging. It's about content. Doesn't mean any Tom, Dick, and Harry who wakes up, one morning with the yearn of opening or establishing a professional institution should craft a content for their school. Doesn't mean if we have 10,000 professional schools around Buea, they all have their unique content.
Mabel, I think it was supposed to be so, but the unfortunate thing is that they don't focus on the content anymore. And this is where the government and some of us world observer are crying. This is where the problem is. Might be some of these promoters might think that the government has a personal problem with them for suspending maybe HND. No. The problem is what these children are acquiring in school is no more meeting the objective of what the government set as standard from the beginning. If you call yourself that you are a full-fledged journalist and you want to train upcoming journalist students or journalism students, you have your objectives that you have set, that at the end of the program, these students supposed
But
to
is
meet.
it supposed to be peculiar to a school or according to government?
According to your
standards?
program.
According
According
to
to
the
your
program
program, while you are following what the government have laid down as objectives, that we have certain national objectives. Now, some of these schools, they go around, they work from those objectives, they create their name, they come out with their content, with their syllabi and things like that. Then they start training. Now, along the line, most of them don't more follow what they had from the beginning. And they just have in mind that at the end of the 3 years, these students will go sit in a room, write an exam, and pass. It was only 2024 exam that students were a little bit tense in HND, because it was a norm. You write HND, you sit in your house, you cross your leg, you think you will pass. There's this particular 2024, a lot of them failed. And we had a record. There was no national best in the whole of Cameroon. No national best, because somebody had to put an eye during the marking process. And you saw that a lot of things were exposed. Why? Because that objectives were not being followed. Teachers were no more teaching with a lot of seriousness.
Okay, let me get the veracity of what you're saying so that the viewers do not get confused. If I can rightly pick Mr. Musa Naibu, if I can, just loosely pick or gather from what he's saying, the government has a standard. And all of these learning institutions, beside their packaging, the names, the ambitions, should weave into the unique standards of the government. Doesn't mean, regardless of the fact that the government has a standard, every learning institution can, create a curriculum that is peculiar to them. So, for instance, if we say we go to X learning institution and we find a different curriculum for those studying communication or human resource, and we go to B learning institution, we find something different for those studying. So there is no compromise or unanimity. Is that what you're trying to say? Or if that is the case, is that correct?
Mabel, thank you very much for this question. First of all, before I answer that question, I want to say that today we are failing because we always look at school as a business. And when we look at school as a business, we focus on the business aspect and forget the necessity that we need to do. That's why you realize that even within Moliko, we have more than 10 private institutions.
Are you afraid of number? Call 100
I
because
wanted to slow down.
no, you should not be afraid of number.
So this is what is happening, Marvin. People go and create institution and they tag it with very beautiful name, with programs that even state university are not capable to run those programs. But in private institution, it's been there. And that's why I want to really salute, he mentioned it, I want to salute the effort of Minister of Public Health.
Yeah.
He's the one who brought the issue of suspension of HND.
But that is just for the medical field.
Because he's proactive. Others too, if they can do it, is better for our country. You know, first of all, you look at the product that always come out from this institution. For example, the private institution, many of them, we know, we are going to the hospital, we know what is happening. Despite the fact that we say, okay, not all of them are bad, it's true. But we know that majority of them, when you go to the hospital, the people who help you to increase the sickness, like abusing you, talking rude to you, are nurses. Where do they train them? From private institutions. I really wonder the Minister of Public Health should move a step further again about the assistant nurses. It's very important. Now, coming back to your question, you know,
But
first
if you
of all,
are, but if you are using that as a parameter to talk down on the HND cause or to dwindle it in a kind of way, don't you think it is about personality traits and not due to competency? Because there are degree nurses that you find them in the hospital and they are still rude.
yeah, that's why we are saying that there is a need for a general review. I always say it. I'm someone who has a general problem with the education system in Africa. For example, maybe I want to give you an example. We study history in the university, and we go and study the annexation of of Cameroon by German, by this. My question is, maybe do these European countries study our history too? They don't. We study the world history, we study this and that. But the question is, do they equally have interest in our study?
But don't you think it gives you a holistic approach?
Yeah, it gives you the holistic approach, but does it solve the problem that you are facing? We have a lot of problems that need to be solved at our own level. Now, maybe coming back, you know, before you create a private institution, first of all, I want to say that I don't agree with Mr. Tame when he said the government set the objective and you put your own and you work on it. Now, this is what happened. Every program has its own training program, the number of courses that you are supposed to do, at what level, how many years, which courses are you supposed to do in first semester. And that's why this private institution, many of them, they have people who have at least master degree that are qualified to teach in higher institutions. So those things, and equally the land document, and you forward to the Minister of Higher Education, then he gives you the go-ahead to create. And many of these higher institutions, I must tell you, many of them, they don't fit in this college. And who follows them? Many of them, they claim that they have state universities that are following them, but not all of them.
No, but we can hardly hear a private university in this country who is not mentored by another, state university.
Do you know what is
Would you want
happening?
to say it does not suffice, or the mentorship is not as thorough as it was supposed to be?
As from last year, we have 476 private institutions.
Where in Cameroon?
In Cameroon, 476. And I must tell you that by this year, they will hit 500 to 530, right? How many state universities are there? There are 11 of them. Maybe do they have the manpower to follow all these private institutions? And the thing is, the Minister of Higher Education has to send at least delegation 2 times in a year to come and follow up the higher institution. We are not saying that all of them are bad. Of course, there are some that are good. We can see the structures are there. Some even have hospitals that are there. But others, I must tell you, maybe we are training Cameroonians. And that is why many of them, they tend to sit. They don't have anything to offer. The kind of training that you give people, that's what they need to produce. And I must tell you, even in the state university, it's not enough. That's why you see people have PhD. They go in front of the prime minister and strike that the government should give them job. We have seen that in medical school, medical doctors. So generally, Mabel, there is a need for us to review the quality of higher education that will solve the problem of Cameroon. For example, if you do agriculture, you should be able to provide solution to the mother in Kwakwa that is facing problem maybe with her cocoyams.
Okay, now are you saying that professional education in Cameroon is there, neck deep on the theoretical part, whereas they were supposed to give us solutions? It's more practical than it should be theoretical.
This is what I'm saying, Mame. Even the head of state has insisted that the only way to solve the problem of Cameroon is through entrepreneurship. And the question is, how many of them do this course? And how many of them do the professional training with the practicals that are required? They are there, but they are few, Mabe. We have to be honest ourselves to see how we can have Cameroonians by 2035 that can solve the problem of Cameroon. Not people who blow grammar here and there. Let me tell you something, Mabe. Today, agriculture is one of the best in terms of economy. When you want to see the economy, especially of Cameroon, you can agriculture like one of the top provider of GDP. And we should know that agriculture employs more than 70% of Cameroonians. But today in secondary school, agriculture is used as a form of punishment. How can you use agriculture to punish a student and you want people to like agriculture, which is the backbone of the economy? So we have to change our mentality from right down from the base. For example, English language is compulsory.
Talking about teachers punishing students with agriculture and which plays down on the integrity of agriculture.
Yeah.
We have had lecturers too who tell students, okay, for bringing phones to my class, take an 80-leaf exercise book and write something or a story or anything there. Doesn't mean it's downplaying the role of literature or English language.
No, that one, when you use your phone in class, is a form of distraction.
I'm just looking at the
punishment part.
Looking at the punishment part.
No, Mabe, that one is different. I'm telling you something that what the education system of Cameroon is. English language is compulsory. But agriculture, how many schools do agriculture as a compulsory subject?
All right, I will have you catch your breath and leave your viewers to ponder on a few things that you've said, which is quite powerful. And when you hear enthusiastic and bona fide, die-hard Cameroonians talking, of course, you can see that they're obsessed about a change. And talking about a change, there is a voice that is definitely going to bring a change on this program and reform the minds of Cameroonians. Mr. Ndumbel Yonga, you have followed your young ones, your kid brothers, talking about the relevance of professional institution. If there is somebody who learns and his learning never ends, it's you. From time immemorial that I've known you, you have been going to school, which means you have the value of education at heart. Now, with all what is happening, would you say that with the advent of this professional school, they do a lot of facade, it's a whole charade, there is a lot of window dressing, and the nitty-gritty, the substance of professional institution is actually lacking?
Yes, maybe. Thank you so much. I want to tell viewers of High TV that I feel guilty because I've been in the educational milieu for 28 years. I've been a teacher for 28 years. I have mentored or facilitated in the primary schools. And as I'm sitting here, I hold a master's degree in curriculum studies and teaching from the University of Boya. So my difficulty is that we talked about the plethora of professional institutions. It's a very huge problem. The problem is huge because if you go back historically, the government have a policy for education, and there's a policy, But when the pressure and the outcry came and say, okay, we want to go professional, the government is not going professional. The government created a way so that some professional school should be constructed. Now, what is profession in the first place, or professional? Is when you are competent or skilled in a particular activity. If you are not competent, you are mediocre. And what we are doing today is the mediocrity that we use to crash programs and call them professionals. When you crash a program, you call it professional, then you are sitting yourself on a hot stone. The Cameroon
What's the essence of an elaborate program, whereas the
because as I said, there is policy and there is curriculum. It means that there's context, there's content to be followed in the form of outlines and evaluation procedures. Like they do the diagnostic, the formative, and the summative evaluation. But some of these professionals who violate this standard that had been put in place. Because as Mr. Musa said, they are going business. And everybody wants the shortcut. And you know the shortcut is the most difficult road to tread on. That is the problem of Cameroon. Take for example, the government have come up with the competence-based approach curriculum. If the government have structured the competence-based approach curriculum, ask the professional school, where is their curriculum? They will never show you their curriculum. Because whatever thing they are doing, they crash it up. And they say, you can do this, a program for 4 or 5 years, you can do it for 9 months. You can do it for 1 year. Are you not seeing that that is a weakness in itself? So now, those who have the power, the economic power, they go and buy their way out. And
but even in the Western countries, there are a lot of scratch programs, and it works.
Yes, but they are standardized institutions. There's something they call something you make on your own and something that you follow standards.
Yeah.
If you don't follow the standard procedure being laid down for that particular program, you are in the wrong shoes. Because that's why I say I feel very, very guilty. For example, we have evaluation procedure that takes the oral, the practical, the written, the attitude. But everybody in Cameroon now evaluates just the written. You must come and sit down, and that is done. The practical, very, very absent. In the primary school, my brother talked about using agriculture as punishment. There's a difference between work and punishment. If we don't separate the two, then we are also in the wrong path.
Okay, what is the difference in that case?
Work is when you produce something that is beneficial. Because if you permit me define the word education, before I say professional is when you are competent or skilled. Education is the acquisition of knowledge, skills, values, and attitude that makes you a useful member in the society. Who is a useful member? I'll underline that particular statement. They say somebody who is an integral part of the community. Who is integral? Is a problem solver. But now, when they leave professional school, what do they become? Problem creators. Are you not seeing that they are creating problems on our streets?
How is that?
Look at how they dress. Look at how they apply our roads. Look at what is happening with... Take drivers first.
But should this be likened to just trainees from the professional institutions?
Yes,
or
because
even that at the state
we certify them when they have not completed their program. We certify them. So we are certifying mediocres. There's a difference between competencies and mediocrity. You can go to a university and you pass through the window or you pass through the door and you are being certified. The day you will stand in front of your society to solve the problem, that is when we'll be able to tell if you are competent or not. Cameroon today, the policy of the state is competence-based. And competence-based is problem solving. It's not problem creation.
Now, in the classrooms, when we talk about competence-based approach, what does this mean? Because this is within the ambit of the classroom,
yes.
Competence-based approach,
Yes.
not on the field.
Yes.
Now, what does this mean? Are you going to solve a problem in the classroom?
That is the field. The classroom is a broad playground, it's a flat ground. That's the field. Competencies are there to solve problems.
They teach you to become a
Competencies are
problem
not
solver.
taught. Competencies are developed. They are not taught. That is why they hold on the hands on, minds on. Your hand is on, your mind is on. For example, a little girl who is somewhere around OIC who want to do catering or something. Do you see the child running around with an exercise book because the child wants to write one or two things? No. What about the one who is repairing televisions? No. What about the mechanic at the garage? No. How do they develop their competencies? They put their hands and their minds. But today, our hands are on our phones, our minds on our phones, and we want to be certificated. So where do you get the problem solvers?
Okay, now if you put a student, in that case, doesn't mean there is a blend and there is no discrepancy, glaring distinguishment between somebody who studied from a professional institution and somebody who studied from a state university, because a lot of times we have castigated our state universities for not
Yes.
doing the competence-based approach.
Yes.
And that is why the problem solver in the garment of a professional institution is
They
coming
came
in. So now, is there any nuance between the professional scholars and the state university scholars?
To a greater extent, I think the state university scholars are far more better.
Marvel,
would you
They are
agree with
far
that?
more better.
No, I would not agree with that in the sense that he was in line with what I was saying. No matter Musa said no, we are coming with our standard from the professional milieu, from what the state has laid down. He said about policies and other things. The content that the professional schools are using are coming from a text from the state. You should understand that. Now, I have a certain professor in the university who had it on us very hard that we are studying almost for free in UB, and that is coming with a lot of effect to us from the quality they are giving us to what we are going to become. According to him, the 50,000 we are paying a year to acquire what we are acquiring is nothing. And he was trying to do that comparative analysis with students who are paying 500 million, 2 millions. Now, you should understand like a trainer that if a child is paying 300,000 to acquire a certain program, and the same child or another child is paying 50,000 to acquire that same program, which this child A is paying 300, they might not acquire the same quality. It depends now on interest, self-interest.
I have an observation, sir.
Yeah, let me just conclude now. It depends now on self-interest to meet that quality. Because what they are giving us in UB for 50,000, somebody who is paying 300,000 somewhere studying that same program might learn it better and might become better. Because parents are not fool. If I know that I send my child in UB to study curriculum studies for 3 years and I will pay 150,000, 50,000, and that same curriculum studies is studying somewhere else for 300,000, 400,000, and with the same quality, I might not even think twice to send my child where I will pay more. You as a trainer, you should think about it.
Let me do an observation, sir. Take an example of a child who is in a village. And in that village, there are two schools. One is a private school, and the other one is a government school. You will discover from now onward
The same level.
yes, most of the facilitators and the teachers we have in this country, government trained them from primary. Government trained them from primary at a point where they paid nothing, not even a dime. And they have done so well that they keep on doing well. Why we are talking about somebody who pays a 500,000 francs, somebody who pays a 50,000 francs. If you pay a 500,000 francs in an institution when the human resource is lacking, what have you done to
You are
yourself?
paying, but for that human resource.
The human
and
resource
the
is not
materials.
there.
Except so.
The professional institution
Except
don't have
so.
the human resource.
Except-
They still
except
borrow
so.
from government.
Okay, now since you have already flattened trainees from or scholars from professional schools and that's from State University, saying that there are no nuance or there are nothing to be spotted or no difference. Why then? Why then, even if you don't agree, but why then is the tuition way higher than that of state universities when we see that they are the same lecturers, almost the same curriculum, the technicality, and the fields for for research, the deserving laboratories are lacking in those institutions. They just go and they go theoretical. So why then there is this huge, difference in the tuition fee?
Okay, just to tackle your question directly, first of all, the government is subsidizing her education in Cameroon. If the government could have allowed us to pay fees in UB, you realize that we might be paying also that 300, 400, 500. So they are subsidizing. And to tell you more, I don't want to call a name, a certain man from Manu advocated that why should we even pay that 50,000? We should pay more. The government was anticipating to put it a flat free rate. Like let's go for free without you paying anything. It was due to this. So it's not like what we are getting from the state university because we are paying a 50,000 is Waterloo or is of lesser quality. No. But I'm just saying that these professional schools, one of the reasons they are taking more, you said because the human resource is not there and their equipment or materials are lacking. They were supposed to have it, like Musa said it. They were supposed to have it, and that is why you have control.
Before operational,
yes,
they operate without them.
And you see that at the end of the day, their products,
are they same like that of state universities?
They are even lesser.
They are lesser.
That's
my point.
They are lesser than what we are acquiring in UB because they were supposed to be of higher advantage over us due to their human resource and their materials.
UB, it's going to appear as if
it's state university.
Yeah,
sorry.
so
yes.
Yes,
State university. Yes.
Let us talk about this mentorship universities, Mr. Musa. What is supposed to be their role? You're one of the speakers who advocated or who brought in that difference, saying that all of these professional learning institutions are supposed to be mentored. Now, what is this mentorship? What does it entail? What is the reality versus what is on ground in the meantime?
Thank you very much, Mabe, for that question. Again, before I answer that question, first of all, we really want to thank the state. Cameroon is one of the cheapest in terms of education. You can go anywhere, go to Ghana, go anywhere, even in Africa. You realize that Cameroon is one of the cheapest to study, both from primary, secondary, and higher institution, especially for the government institution. Why? Because the government has gone the mind to subsidize the fees for those things. Some, even primary school is free.
Yes, they pay just PTA.
Yeah, so we really want to thank the government for that effort. Now, coming back to your question about the mentorship, normally it is supposed to be done in all private institutions. A state institution should mentor them, no matter where they are. For example, there are some private institutions that can be mentored by University of Bamenda, who are in Buea. While some will be mentored maybe University of Buea, Douala, anywhere, but they should have a state university that mentor them. And what is their function? Their function, first of all, is to see that they teach what is required.
Okay.
Number two is that they should mentor the process of training in general, both practical, both theory, and see that it is in line with what the government has offered. Number three is that they should make sure that all the questions that are set are in standard. They should approve them and make sure that they are in standard. Number four is that after the training, after, for example, the HND, they have to give them the certificate. They have to sign their certificate. So it is a close collaboration between a state university and a private institution to see what they are giving to Cameroonians is what the government is advocating for. Otherwise, We cannot say they have to come maybe one times in a year. No. It depends the activity, the kind of training, and they should have experts in those fields that they can follow. But I told you that for the ministry, if I'm not mistaken, they have to send 2 times in a year. If my mind does not deceive me, they have to send at least 2 times to equally come and see how the training is going on. Do they have the required equipment to train Cameroonians? Because the government has to be sure that the Cameroonians that are coming out, they should fit anywhere that is there for the country. They should be able to compare with the state institution, and even as he mentioned, dominate, or they should be equal with the state institution. So I must tell you that, Mabel, it's not a matter of paying fees. We know that even among the private institutions, they vary. For example, if I've stayed for long and I'm known, I have the right to increase my fees so that I will meet up with the demand. People put their fees. I don't know whether the government always control the fees, because you realize that in nursing here you pay 300,000, some you pay 500, some even right up to 700,000. So the question is, why the difference? Do they have better lab, better training ground, better institution than the other one? All of that, I think it has to be clear, and Cameroonians, they have to know it. And that's why any person that is going for higher institution, they should be sure that that higher institution is recognized. They have a state university that is followed up. Otherwise, you just spend your money, spend your years, at the end, you don't have anything to justify.
You're one of the people who have flattened the essence of educational standards in Africa, not just limited to Cameroon. Can we know some of those reasons that you can advance for making the statement that you did?
Mabe, when you look at our generally, apart from the secondary education where they are working on competence-based approach, that you need to...
Not just secondary, even in higher institutes.
In higher institution, I don't know how far that thing is practicable.
Thing is practiced at the primary and secondary.
Okay,
Now,
not higher institutions.
Now this is it, Mabe, because I believe it's step by step, and all those in secondary, primary, higher, they have different ministers that do different things, right? For example, a minister of higher education and decide, like what he did to suspend the admission into PhD, right? Any minister has it on to see where he can fit that can benefit Cameroonians. Now, I told you that I have generally a problem with our education system, and it has pushed even our mindset to reason differently. For example, Mabe, when you look at our education system, it's basically imported from colonial rule. That's when our education system started. And the question is, these people who brought it, they are white. And you realize that what they brought to us, many of the things, they are not solving our local reality. And that's why we have underlooked one aspect, which is traditional doctors, right? So we don't have it. Why? Because white man did not have it during that time. They did not bring it to us.
Are you saying they have to be trained in schools?
They have to.
They are doing it in Ghana.
They have to be trained in school. They have to have their lab, and the government. You know that the government or the other institutions like the medical doctors, they must tell you that they will not condemn the traditional medicine. They have to have the training. I'm telling you, why they are not having the training and they are
conventional doctors are being trained.
They should be trained, and they should have labs, and they should be questioned if things are not going on well. What is wrong with traditional medicine? There is something that we do even in school in veterinary medicine that they call ethno-veterinary medicine, where we go back to our traditional plants and see what they can do. I must tell you that they did not bring it to us because the white man, they don't have those plants, they don't have this traditional medicine. I'm telling you, they just brought to us what will solve their problems, and we are taking it. For some, there is an advancement a bit in some ministry. But I must tell you that any program should target our own local reality. It should target a problem that is peculiar, for example, in Buya.
Okay, let's talk about unemployment before we get into the other part of the program, which is talking about culture, the identity, and a lot of other things. We have a growing rate of unemployment in Cameroon. I have been privileged to MC for graduations in Yaoundé, within Boya, and other parts, other regions in Cameroon, where there is graduation from learning institutions, professional learning institutions. Sometimes you hear a swelling number of 2,000 graduates being sent into the job market. And sometimes, even as master of ceremonies, I will often ask myself, in which job market? Is it the same job market that we are staring at every day? Now, if we are creating these students to be job creators and not job seekers, where are we missing? Because they come in their numbers, they add up in beefing up the number of unemployed youths that we have in society. Mr. Lyunga.
Thank you, Mabel. I want to say that, just like Mr. Musa said, we have a problem. And what is our problem? Unemployment. Because we are not addressing the local realities of what we study. That is where he is saying that we have the Eurocentric kind of curriculum that trained us to become unemployed. Take, for example, if informally we have the conventional doctors, as he said, and informally we train our own traditional doctors, or you call the local doctors, or you call the witch doctors, or what kind of doctor you want to attach to their names. They will be employed and they will solve problems. Our problem is that we cannot solve problems. All those who graduate from state universities and other universities cannot solve problems. If they can solve problems, tell me which one.
Okay, now, don't you think if they cannot solve problem, it is because of maybe some of the courses that they are enrolled into? Like somebody who is going to study office administration, what problem do you want to solve in that kind of course or in that kind of field?
You need to identify an office first.
Okay, somebody who is getting into the world of maybe mass communication. Yes. You're coming there maybe to add, sorry, this is not, running down my profession or vocation, but you're coming there to maybe become a newscaster, just like the big names that we have or the giants that we have. What extra problem do you think you can come in to solve? You can either become an investigative journalist, a cultural journalist, an environmental journalist,
or a freelance.
Or a freelance.
Or a freelance.
So what problem? Do you think the problem lies not with the institution, but maybe with what these learners choose to study?
Yes, there's also this anxiety to go and study. I just want to have a degree. I want to have a degree. You want to have a degree, what for? If you permit me ask that question. Take, for example, if you ask me why I went to the university, I will tell you I went to study curriculum because I became a school teacher before I thought of going to the university. I did not go to the university, I started looking for a job. I tried to get a job, then I go to the university. We are not creative, we are not creative thinkers. At the level of our creativity is completely absent. Take, for example, somebody who does sociology and anthropology and comes out for the university and cannot write whatever about his own self, his tribe, where he's coming from. He cannot document anything. He takes the degree from sociology, anthropology, and says he wants to go and write a name and become an administrator. Beautiful.
But is that bad?
No, beautiful. But is that real? It is not bad, but is it real? Can you realize that kind of a goal? To a greater extent, no. To a lesser extent.
But there in the ENAM, you're trained.
You will be trained, yes, it's true. But what were your aims? What are your goals? What are your objectives? Why are you going for this degree? Take, for example, I have a daughter. She's graduating with a degree in accounting, social management sciences at the level of the university. What are you going to do? Whose money are you going to count? In which country? And how many accountants are there?
Is that you acting as a wet blanket? Or discouraging the child?
No, not
In a
discouraging. It's to point at the realities of society.
That's true.
It's a point at the realities. I call her, Mama, please, I beg. Come, let me give you, I create a cost center for you. You start managing the cost center, then you see how you will be able, I mean a small business, small one. So that you'll be able to move on and improve on your accounting skills.
Okay, now, in all of these beautiful things that you've said, where and who is to blame? Society, the education that they get, or the institutions, or what they decide to study?
There are lots of factors that are involved. Because for the first one, if the policy of education knows that we are not going to employ all of these children when they leave this institution in 3 years, they should not accommodate them. They should not. They should place a line, a measuring rod, and say, okay, this is the cut-off thing, and this is the number we need. So this is what we can give to society. At the level of, lawyers, at the level of teachers, and what have you. That is why Mr. Musta mentioned again that how can you have a PhD and you start running for a job? You go and sleep on the street and say you will strike. If they don't give you a job, you are not going to leave the streets. It's because you have a very funny orientation. I cannot say it's bad. It was just funny. You're just running with your shadows and thinking that even in the night you will see a shadow. It's a lie. You never see a shadow in the night. In my tribe and Madale, they say 18 ele atabongana yondo. They say you cannot start a journey on your heels. That I'm comfortable. I got to my point. You start on your toes. So you are ready to go first before any other thing. But now we go for things that don't matter. Tell them to go and learn how to drive a car. They say no. Tell them to go to the garage and acquire skills. They say no. Tell them to go to a computer lab and become a computer engineer.
So if everybody were to think that who are those who are going to be doctors?
What are they doing with their doctorates? What are you doing with that?
We lecture in state universities.
Not all of them. 90,
Then we carry out research.
98%.
We carry out research.
That is why the Minister of Higher Education suspended the PhD program, because even what we are investigating are not useful. We do research in things that are not needful. What are the needs? What are our needs as a state or as a country? What are the needs? We identify the needs, then we study for the needs. That is why those of us who do curriculum, they say learner-based curriculum, societal-based curriculum. You have curriculum that are projected towards the problem they are going to solve. But now, we just study anything, and after 2-3 years we graduate and we say there is unemployment. Who should employ who here? The state cannot employ everybody. We know that. We know that very well. The state cannot employ everybody.
Okay, I'll be coming back to Mr. Musa to tell us about how these professional institutions can be able to bridge the gap between theoretical learning and practical, abilities or skills that are supposed to be employed on the field. But before then, let us talk about one of your educational infrastructures that has been set up recently, and we see that a little bit often on the news these days, and that is SOTI Cameroon, which stands for
Nukechen Secretariat Office Training Institute.
What is that?
I think, like my senior brother said there, if we are being trained, because when you are being trained, you are not told to be a problem solver. You're supposed to know that when the state, because the state is investing on us, our families are investing on us, and you as a person, you are investing on yourself. So when these three categories of persons are investing on one particular person, you're supposed to ask yourself, at the end of the day, what becomes of me? So after my master's degree, I look at the level of unemployment, I pondered upon what I could do. I started this institution. It started 2019 actually, and on the first year I had an enrollment of about 21 students from PhD, from masters, first degree, and even unemployed youth. They came, and in class on that very first day I saw people who were more inspired bigger, knowledgeable than I am in class. This is real reality. And I asked myself, that picture is there, just that we could not have it. I was as thin as you can imagine. I sat in front of them. I summoned the courage, started the first class. And what helped me is I had my rubrics. I had these objectives. I had my content. And I knew that I was a product from a better place. I'm not saying where I study is the best. So these were the things that gave me that courage. And we start the very first day. And what I had inside me, they believed on it, or they believe in it. Mm-hmm. And that is how they stayed till the 6 months that were programmed for that study. Today, as I'm telling you, they all came in unemployed. All the 21 came in unemployed. At the end of the program, to the next 3 months, they were all employed.
Okay, where?
In different institutions. Yes, in different institutions. Because what we are failing in school is just one thing. I remember one of my professors told us in class, what school owners were supposed to be doing is not to go far-fetched. Come to the society, look at what is being displayed in Cameroon. Go back, tailor your content according to those things, so that when you train these students, they will have a place to be integrated in the society. It's not every learner who will study and have the privilege to travel. Though Musa was saying that we are studying world history and European history, it's important because the world is a global village. But we should not dwell on that. So let me go back to Nsorti, Cameroon. I first of all carve out the things that can easily make a young person to be employed. Most of them, before now, they were literally on computerized. Mm-hmm. So I started computer, I did leadership, I had to partner with all the employable services in Buea. Most of these big organizations, I went there, I discussed with them, I told them my vision. Some of them bought it, some rejected, because in this world, not everybody will accept you in the first place. So immediately as they were reaching 3-4 months, and I say, after the 4 months, you have to go to internship, because internship is a way of, you have trained them, go and practice this thing in a hands-on domain. So when they were going there, some of them were excelling and they were recruited.
Now, talking about Nsorti, Cameroon, Mr. Musa here has raised one of the problems in the professional landscape, which is some of them lack structure. Tell us about your structure.
For structure, I had to do what we call Memorandum of Understanding. I went into an MOU with somebody who had a structure. I used one of the biggest structures just here in Malingo, St. Juan. I had to use the whole of that structure, their building, their resources, and everything that you can mention. And it was a full-fledged institution. Though we're not structurized, though we're not, let me say, authorized, but it had to come to solve a problem for young Cameroonians who were looking at a way forward to go in, or to work out a way for their life and that of their families that did a lot of investment in them. And one of the little girl I trained today is the director of programs in Aerodef. Aerodef they had a private higher institution. That little girl went there as an intern, was later retained, and today she's the director of program in that university, thanks to Nsorti, Cameroon.
Tell us about your lecturers. We are using you as a lab rat to see if you coming here and you're putting the last nail on the heads or on the coffin of learning institutions, professional learning institutions, higher institutions, you meet some of those standards. Tell us about your lecturers, the human resource. How qualified, what are their degrees, what are their ambitions towards drilling these students?
Mabel, for that, it was not a difficult task, because one thing you will realize is Cameroon is very, very literate. We have a lot of young people with master degrees in their pockets, roaming around. And at that particular time, I had a lot of them who were my friends, master degree holders. I myself, I was into the PhD program already. So I had to call some of them and discuss and look at what you can teach best. Then I offer you the program, and that is how we could best fit in what we're doing.
How many students have you been able to graduate?
As at now, because after that particular year, the next year I left that place, I went down to my 16 shopping mall. The program continued. If I want to do a rough estimate, I can say I've trained more than 150 young Cameroonians on that sort Cameroon.
Okay, that's fine. Now, what are the ambitions this academic year? Have you started enrollment, and how is the process? What are the challenges?
One of the challenge is, like you said, we have better quality structures. And one thing I've realized with Cameroonians is they don't go in for competence. They go in for the name. They go in for the largesse. Like now, you have students who want to go to UB. Let me just use this as an advice. You have students who just want to go to UB because they have heard UB is a place to be. And like you have said, it's a blessing, because like me, I will not want what I went through for any of my child to go through. The mistake of education, because as we are talking, the situation is going worse if the government don't put their hands on deck. Until you better stand a place where you love your country. You don't know how painful it is that maybe in 2022 you'll be graduated more than 3,000. More than. Then if you are talking of UB, SWA, Ngwaikele, University of Douala, to come and fit the unemployed status quo, it's really, really heart-aching. Just that we look at it with a lot of lesser interest, but it's really heart-aching that a parent who is in Manfe, somewhere in Tali, where I come from, will use all their last resources to send a child to school, and at the end of the 3 years, the child comes back without any reasoning faculty. It's really, really heart-aching. And this one, I will not say I'm blaming the government. The government have given us the institution, the government has given us the resources. But it is left on us that if you are coming to UB, you should be rest assured that you are going to study. But if you study, at the end of the day, what are you supposed to do with that knowledge if you are not employed immediately? So that is why some of these private institutions and professional institutions are coming in, like in Sorti Cameroon. We are there to help you to practicalize your soft skills, like our motto goes. We help you to upgrade your soft skills to practical skills, so that this, like, you can be a very good orator. We tell you what can you do with that knowledge, how can you practicalize it, how can you convert it to a monetize something. And you realize that you start thinking now out of the box, because it's all about thinking out of the box. Then you start making the money.
Okay, that's fine. Mr. Musa, hearing all what he said, I remember a while ago you were disagreeing with some of the things that he's pointed, and for him to have castigated professional institutions, and he is a proprietor himself, that should mean that maybe he's trying to correct some of the flaws that other proprietors of learning institutions are trying, to make. What skill do you think that most of these professional institutions would induct in the lives, the minds, the habits of young scholars who take whooping sums of money to get themselves enrolled? And do you think that this curriculum needs remedial approach?
Thank you, Mabel, for that question again. We must say that the government cannot train all Cameroonians. Mm-hmm. It's clear that we need the private higher institution. And maybe a small correction, even the state university, they have professional programs. And that's why you can do undergraduate program, you go and do masters. And there are some programs like medicine, like engineering, like College of Technology, for example.
Even in undergraduate, you have professional programs.
Yes, yeah. Those are the ones that I'm listing. So there are many of them. And of course, We know that generally the difference between professional and non-professional program is that for professional program you go a lot with practicals than theory, while the other one they follow theory more than. Now you ask me a question, what the founders, or we can call them the champion of the higher professional or institution, need to put in the minds of
this
Cameroonians.
is really not to derail you, but there's
Yeah.
another one called vocational training.
Yes.
I don't. It's okay. You can go ahead.
Yeah. There are different, for example, vocational training too is a sector which is under another ministry.
How
which-
valuable is that?
No, that one too is good because
very
they
valuable.
give you what you need,
Okay.
and those are the
The
programs that
technical
we are, the
skills.
technical skills that we need. And unfortunately, the government does not have much to really give. We need multiple of these institutions, and even the technical sector. Like for example, we see a child graduating in maybe engineering or electricity or car mechanics can go to the field and work immediately. And that's why I must say that in the Francophone side, they value technical education more than the grammar education. But us English will value more general than technical education.
But I thought these professional schools were coming to correct.
For sure, that was I think that should be the aim. But now you ask me, what do they need? Sometimes maybe you don't give what you don't have. You must have something before you struggle and give it, right? For example, Mr. Tambe mentioned, I'm sure he has something before he think of giving it to others,
sure.
right? And that is the goal here, because once you don't have, you miss the trap, right? Now, this is what is happening in Cameroon higher education system. I mentioned to you that majority of them, they put money ahead. Because I don't see a reason why even University of Buea does not have the manpower or the capacity to train some particular fields, but you will hear it. I don't want to mention, because when I mention it, they know themselves. You hear them running their mouth around that they are training such institutions, that they don't even have the laboratory or where they can do internship or do their practicals. It's uncalled for. I mentioned to you that there are some institutions that they don't have land. But how can they be running agriculture without land? Where would they have the practicals? They are not
But there
affiliated
are a
to.
lot of, but they can affiliate themselves to individual lands like Bukwai and some other villages.
Maybe you are right, they can do that. But how many of them have that zeal to do it? How many of them don't understand the concept that they need to do it? And how many are affiliated to university? We are not saying that all of them are wrong. They should not get us wrong, otherwise they will come and question me that why am I? We are saying that there are some that are good. But we really need Cameroonians that can stand on their own, Mabel. I told you, Mabel, no matter what we do here, our problem is that tomorrow our lives should be better and our community should benefit from us, from our education. I need to, for example, I always give this example. We know that in Northwest it's difficult to have fish, right? But you see a child will leave Northwest to come to University of Buea to study fisheries. Where are you going to with it? At the end of the day, what you can do is just to go back to the state and start begging that they should give you employment.
No, but you cannot say that. What if that student in turn creates a fish pond?
Mabe, the question is how many of them have done that? I'm telling you that when your program at least should have a focus. When you do it, your community should benefit from you. He mentioned about your community investing in you. Your parents are there. The state is investing in you. What are you giving back to your community?
But looking at that case in point that you gave a while back, these students, we know that the Northwest is not very much into fish farming, but if this student is coming at one of these tech universities to learn about fish agriculture and goes back, or fishery, and goes back to open maybe a fish pond, don't you think that is giving back to community?
Mabe, that is what I'm telling you. The problem is that they don't have even the zeal to do it. You know, when you grow up with something, you have the love to do it. For example, I'm animal man. I've been rearing cattle for years upon years. And that's why today I'm doing veterinary medicine to go and solve a problem. You know, education is just to empower you for you to make a way out for a particular problem. When you do education and you're unable to solve a problem, then there's a problem. For example, look at the ways that we have in Buyaye. I asked my question that where are the people who always work like the people of the environment that can, those things that are useful, Mabe. There is a student, my friend, who graduated in court. He told me openly that he came, gave a proposal to Ezakam that he would turn that to renewable energy, to energy, but they could not allow his document to go through. People are there, but the question is, the will is not there to make space for them. People, there are some programs that honestly they are good, but the question is, how many of them are solving the problem? We cry every day along the road of Buya. Today, look at it. People have realized, they have understood the difficult nature of the country. And honestly, for sure, the government cannot employ all the youth. Now, what they have gone back in Buya is, you see, many people are doing business now. Many people are doing taxi work. So, last time, since I see many people doing taxi, you have master, you are a taxi man. You have PhD, you are a taxi man. You have undergraduate, you are a taxi man. I said, let me investigate and see whether what is this job offering to these Cameroonians. So after finding out from my people, they told me that it's someone, if it is not your taxi, a day you can earn even up to 7,000 francs. If it is your own, you can earn 15, 20,000 francs daily. Maybe imagine the money that is there. But the question is, do we have the institutions that are training the drivers?
No, we do have driving institutions in Buya. The question
the
is...
The problem is, Mr. Tamben, the thing is, are these their documents really valid? We have seen this thing that people go without even knowing anything from driving. They have this in driving license.
That's where I want
to
make...
They go to the field that they want to perfect their driving. They will start causing a lot of havoc along the way. I was very happy when UB approved, the Ministry of Transport approved that UB will be hosting one of the training.
Yeah.
And I pray, and many Cameroonians, they should go there.
Okay.
It's a profession. Today, many Cameroonians, they don't want to do this this moving around and swing shoe.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes, they don't want to do it, right? Do you know why? Do you know why? Many Cameroonians are proud. But you see what these Niger people are doing. You can bring your shoe, they will take you 3,000, 4,000 francs. But no Cameroonians are not involved there. What is happening?
Musa, let me just come in there.
No, ignorance it's not pride.
No, it's not ignorant. It's not ignorant.
Mala, would you rather, since you've given it all kinds of names,
let me just say something.
Then
Mula will say something. You know, in every program of study, like he was saying, there is a skill embedded in that program. If you do history, you know that there is a skill in history, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you do JMC, there is a skill in JMC. If you do women and gender, there is a skill in it. And you had an interest, like your daughter had an interest for going in for accountancy. You understand? Now, after, let me use your daughter, permit me, as a yardstick. If your daughter graduates, might be this year or next year, as you put it, I will not see any wrong for your daughter to go to a saloon to start life. I will not see any wrong with it.
They should not take that.
Yes, which that is the interest now. It's an interest. It's not a problem. It's an interest. It's a matter of interest. If she's not taking it for something, it means her expectations are high, which is not a problem. It's depending on how serious she is with life. Now, you talk about taxi drivers. It's a problem if you have a degree, you have a master's degree, and you end up as a taxi driver. I would say no to that. But if you have,
you can earn and make life.
Good, to start life. I have a professor,
No,
a full-time professor today, who is an international icon. He had a PhD in Yaoundé, came back, traveled to US, came back, struggled to enter into the government sector. It was difficult. What did he do? He started with a taxi. Students, level 200 students were insulting him. but he knew that that was not where he was going to
Well,
end.
is that the essence of a doctorate degree? Anyways, I'm going to, use my powers to hold the conversation here because we are getting into a more sweetening conversation, and that is talking a little bit about culture and bringing in, the cultural factor into our discussion this evening. With the little time left, I think we can make the most of it, educating the minds of young Cameroonians who have been westernized or who have been individually, besides the societal factor, eroding their very essence and the values of culture. And that is why I took the pains in bringing in the folklore writer and the educationist, the Pan-African educationist here this evening to tell us a little bit about his pieces. If you look at my hands, you may think maybe I'm preparing for a doctorate degree. Of course not. I am not. Simply, getting myself swamped and immersed into beautiful cultural stories which he has written. And in case you're wondering whom the author of these beautiful books are, then you're going to be finding out in a bit. No other person than Mola Ndumbe Liunga. Mola, thank you again for having the chance sitting not just as a guest, but as a guest on the guest platform. So you're welcome.
Thank you, Mabel, again. Thank you, Mr. Tambe. Thank you, Mr. Musa. Mabel, I just learned one thing in life. What I learned in life is that I have a conflict between Eurocentric education and Afrocentric education. There's a huge conflict that exists there. What are my thinkings? I begin to think that before the Europeans came to Africa, were there unemployed youths? Was there unemployment, so to say? I tried to investigate and I discovered there was no unemployment. There was none. All the African youths were employed.
Yeah.
Then I was like, come on. So what happened? What happened is simple. We tried to get rich, of which we were wealthy. This is the problem of Africa today. We try to get rich, of which we are wealthy. Let me explain what is riches. Riches is when you have money in an account. Which is when you announce that you have these millions or these billions or these trillions in your account. You are rich. Wealth is Mr. Musa, who has the flock, who have the sheep, who have the plantains, who have the crops. Mm-hmm. That is wealth. But this other guy who is running away from Cameroon is looking for what? Riches.
Okay, now
So
while
that-
I'll be
so-
asking myself how this tallies to you being a folklore artist, can you navigate a little bit?
Yes, so now it's the people. How do they live their life? Ambakwiri. The Iwakwis, how do they live their life? Did they have a bank? If they did not have a bank, how did they spend their evening? Did they have nightclubs? Did they go for entertainment? So what happened? How did they live their life? Then I have to investigate and find out how they live their life. 1, storytelling. 2, dance. 3, festival. 4, ceremony. But why do you think I'm taking the dance, music, festival, ceremony? Did they hunt? Yes, of course they hunted. Did they plant? Yes, of course they plant. Did they suffer from food, or did they have the food and agricultural organization? No. So why is it that they flourish and today they are suffering?
Okay. I was going to ask. I read The Gods Are Watching.
Yes.
I remember many months back you gave me a copy of this beautiful masterpiece.
Yes.
And reading the stories, I asked myself, are these real stories? I know you have pain and frustration. The gods have a hand in this matter, and scars and sacrifice of the gods. You have all of this and many others that you've put into writing, and those that are yet to be established. Are these true stories?
They have
Or
elements of
fictional?
truth
Okay.
and maybe elements of doubt, in the sense that they are true stories because they are stories that are handed down to me. Take for example, if they tell you a story how somebody Mr. Musa lost a cattle, and the cattle maybe stray into another herd of cattle, and what Mr. Musa did to bring back the cattle. I think it's knowledge for you to keep, that if you are going to keep cattle, you should know what strategy on how to manage, or the peace and conflict that is going to develop between you and the person who has the crops. If your cattle stray away from you and they invade somebody's farm, I think it's a serious problem. They have to be solved. So some of these stories are true. But you know, oral stories that are handed down always have an evolution in them. Maybe the choice of words, vocabulary, betray some of the
Now,
stories.
if you say they were handed to you, were they handed down to you or to some other person?
They were handed down to, you know, as I said, we had entertainments in the evening. So my grandfathers, my grandmothers, my father, my mother passed through that kind of a system of education.
Okay, and
So I benefited from that.
okay,
I lived with my grandmother for a couple of years after my grandfather died. Then I was moved back to my father's compound when he died. So if you look at the beginning, I say I thank my mother who inspired me, who told me most of these stories. As a crying woman who was crying her beloved in the evening, that is where the pain and frustration comes from. And oftentimes, there is no story without a song. There is a song that has a meaning. That is maybe a painful song, maybe it's a loss of a loved one, or is an emotional song that has to do.
okay. Now, if these stories were handed to you, did you at some point? I may be a little bit. I may be rushing with the interview because we do
Yes.
not have the luxury of time. If these stories were handed to you, Mola, did you at some point add a little bit or make it fleshy? Did you add some condiment into it? Did you make it greener? Did you make it even refreshing or refined?
Yes, as if you can remember, I said some of the stories I tried to write them in the brokenness of the language, because the language is broken, because there are some words that comes from the culture, from the language of the culture, that I cannot really translate. So I am caught between putting it as it is or trying to make an interpretation of it. So that is one of the problems I have. So I spoke to somebody who said that you could not write it in a very beautiful English, maybe use AI. I said, I'm not in the AI generation. I'm sorry, I know there is AI. But if I start narrating the story as an AI something, you will get something different.
Something different.
At times, even the language of the speaker. Take, for example, my mother, who could not pronounce August and can say August or August. So what do you want me to write? I would prefer now to use it in Mokwe. I think she said, Melimendene. Each time asks me, Melimendene hyphen August. So I want to give it first as the primary speaker gave to me. Then the secondary and the tertiary speaker may have their questions to ask.
But how were you able to retain all of? If your mom told you 50 stories, were you able to retain all of those 50
Yes,
stories?
they are all written down.
So at the time she was handing over the stories to you, were you writing or in your infant mind? Did you just have all of them?
That is the retentive mind we talk about. For example, I talk about hands-on, minds-on. If they want to tell you a story, you are not distracted that you are standing by the window or the door, or you are concentrating in one or two activities. If it's at the fireside, she is seated on this side, you are seated on this side. If she is doing narration, and we have what they call points, where you understand the story and you ask questions. You take your hand, they'll put a bit of water on wood ash, and you put it on your hand when you answer one question. So we answer a second question, you dot again. You answer a third question, you dot. So as a family, when you are interested, when you keep on retaining, she keep giving the points.
Okay, that is beautiful.
So there was some kind of evaluation that took place.
Yeah.
Okay, should it be a bother or something we should not even pop up as a question? Should it stand as a rhetorical question to ask why you chose to write all of the stories in Mokwe? Because if you're a culturalist, I think there should be a blend. There should be a blend, and you believe in divergence in culture. So don't you think maybe if there were 50 stories that were handed out, you could, transcribe 4 into, the Bamenda language and all of this, or these were all stories which happened in the Mokwe land?
No, not all, because as I said, there's always migration. And there's no place you can say that people never migrated. Migration is a natural phenomenon that must take place. So people moved. For example, if I ask the question, where did the first butcher came to Boya? They'll give me a time. And in that time frame, he lived with the people. And he solved his own problem that he could solve. But if I have to transcribe, bet you it will be very, very difficult. Because so far, even when I have manuscript and I give to my friends and brothers who will edit for me, they will give you 6 months, they will give you 1 year. They won't. They say, maybe you had seen this one, you know what you want with. But I know one thing about stories. They maybe you borrow from the past to solve for the present. And those things may help the future.
Yeah.
Okay. In one of the books that I have, The Gods Are Watching, there was a character, Nje, who was an interpreter of the god of the mountain, which is Evazramute. We popularly call it Efasamutu.
Yes.
So I don't know which is the right spelling. Now, but that is really not my focus. While I try to find out the right pronunciation, are all of these characters real characters that happened?
No fiction.
Okay, fictional characters.
Fictional character.
But for Evazramute, I know there is a god of the mountain
Yes.
for the Dakwe people.
Yes, because the primary speaker will say Evaramote, the secondary speaker may call him Epasamoto, and maybe the tertiary speaker may say Epasa. But when you go down folklore lane and you get into culture, there is nothing they call Epasa. Because they say language is inquisitive, by a means of which knowledge is transmitted from one generation to another. It's a language that becomes inquisitive, that inquires. So if you say Epasa, the Bakris don't have anything they call Epasa.
What does it mean to be a folklore artist or a folklore writer? We know there are folklore artists and there are folklore writers.
Yes.
And where did this passion begin?
It began when my daughter asked me to tell her a story.
Wow.
Then I told her a story. Then we're in Douala, I told her a story. So the next day in the evening, she said I should tell the story. So when I repeated the story, she corrected the story and said the story was wrong. That's not how it was told. So I was caught in maybe not telling different versions of a particular story. So I decided to write the version that I knew.
Okay, so which means that as different generations are upcoming, stories are changed.
Yes, they evolve.
Okay, they are evolved.
They evolve.
Okay.
Because there are people who don't want that their story should be told, because maybe they play the negative part in the story.
Okay.
But there are others who want that their stories should be told.
Just the way.
But
it
as a
was.
writer, I humbly make other appeals to elders and entitlements of the land. I go to them, I speak with them. This is a story, this is my storyline. They say, okay, it's true, but I was told the story this way, so you can do this modification. So I think so far the stories are in the palace of the Nalumo of Boya. The stories have been distributed to many entitlement and elders of the land, so that if they cannot read, their children can read them for them before the book launch on the 25th of October 2024.
We are going to be talking elaborately about the book launch, but tell us how you navigate being a conventional educationist and a folklore writer.
Yeah, it's all about curriculum. Curriculum simply means plan and unplanned activities. You plan your activities, even if they are formal or informal. So the informal education and the formal education go hand in glove. Mm-hmm. The two go together. But you can navigate the grounds. You choose what you want. I've written academics books too.
Okay.
I've written mathematics books for children. I've done other books, but that is not enough, because today, with the coming of psychosocial support, you say when children come from troubled backgrounds like in the Northwest and Southwest region, you cannot just dive into the mathematics and start teaching them the mathematics. You cannot just dive in the history and start teaching them the history. What you do is that you tell them a story and let them tell you their own story, because telling their story matters. At times they are traumatized. At times they feel as if they should do something negative. But if you let them tell their story, they may bounce back from a negative point to a better position. Then people start talking the mathematics. So every lesson in the psychosocial support need at least a short story to capture the minds of the young learner who is before you.
Okay.
So that is one of the reasons why I go for short stories.
All right. Tell us about the launch, which is happening on the 25th.
Yes, the launch has been scheduled for the 25th, and I have a program for it. The program is a bit long. The venue is Boya Council, and
Who are those invited for this book launch?
I've invited the Paramount
Is it you watching?
Yeah,
Or?
yeah, the Paramount Chief of Boya, the mayor of the town. I've not been to the senator and the parliamentarian, but I'll hand the copies.
Okay.
My regional delegates of basic and secondary, a host of titlemen, elders. There will be the choir will sing, there will be a dance group, and even the mask that is in the Gods Are Watching will be invited. Yes, so that some of us will see the mask and why the mask is still there.
Wow.
So I told friends that in 1891, when the Germans had a confrontation with the Bakuris, on September 5th, the only thing that the Germans did not take from Boya as an artifact was the mask that was not in the palace, because it was at the Moka, it was at the dancing ground.
So why did they not take that?
They did
Because
not
of
see
the
it.
powers.
They could not see it. I don't know. But it was not taken because in the analog or the catalog that came from Berlin for artifacts that were stolen, they stole our artifacts. That's why my brother is saying that our curriculum is borrowed. What we find in this catalog is that the mask was present, but it is not in the German collection. So that's why I titled the stories "The Gods Are Watching."
And the mask is still there?
Yeah, that's why I say I want to invite you to come to the council hall.
This is serious.
Yes.
This
It will come to the council hall.
is this a mask?
That's the mask, yes. And they call it the Ipangateta mask.
So who wears it?
That is a ritual now, it's spiritual.
Okay, that's fine.
You cannot disclose the bearer of the mask.
Okay. Tell us about the program further. So
Yeah, the program,
are lay people, the populace of Boya inhabitants, are they invited?
yes, they are very, very much invited.
Okay.
Because as I said, it's a folklore thing. I have the master of ceremony I propose for the first book is Mr. Calvin Walang. Calvin, that's what they call him. Dr. Ndumbe will be there, he will do the moderating. Dr. Jofi Wusi will be there. Mulai Fange Suka, Emily Tambot will be there. Mola Billy Bob will be there. Mola Pam Mumbu Angale, a lot of guys will be there. So we'll start the ceremony with them, we'll sing the national anthem. The mayor will give us an address. Then we'll do profiling of the author. Thereafter, we'll do The Gods Are Watching. Then we'll do the scares and sacrifice of the gods. They will do pain.
Now, if you talk about we will do, what is it doing in that context?
The doing is that the reviewers will talk about what they have read about the books.
Okay, now let's talk about some of the sales points. On that day, for how much is this books or are these books going to be given out for?
Yeah, I want to say that I have not had a manager yet, but my chief launcher is Dr. Roslyn Mojoko Manyoli of Fakoshi.
Okay.
And I think after they have done the launch, that's when they will say, okay, the price for this one is this. If I do that now, then I'm violating the rubrics of the book launch.
Okay, that's fine. But on that day and after that, there are going to be sales points?
Yes.
Okay.
There'll be sales and signing.
Okay, I'm going to be having you over again so that we can discuss in total about this book and not just, maybe we still some time before the 25th of October or September. October to talk about the book launch. There is still a lot of time. So in case this little story, I know a lot of us are, a little bit fascinated by traditional stories. In case you're fascinated by it or a little bit gravitating towards it, then you can hold your breath because I'm going to be bringing in Mola again. I'll find time so we'll talk about the launch, talk about some beautiful stories of the book. In case people will be wanting to reaching out to you, what number should they use, or do you have social media?
I have numbers. I have just one number. I
Okay.
give it.
You give it to the viewers watching.
Okay, the viewers, the number is 677 20 12 38. It's an old number when MTN started it though.
All right. You want to give it again?
677 20 12 38.
We've spoken quite elaborately about Nsoti, Cameroon, and in case you're looking, you are a parent and you want your child to have, corporate at formation on being an administrative assistant or on bilingual secretarial duties and all secretarial duties and all of that. Nsoti Cameroon can help you, and you could be reached out on what?
You go to Facebook, you type Nsoti Cameroon, you can get the official information there, or you get me on my contact 676 78 1577.
Okay, thank you so much. This is where we come to the end of matters, but before we take leave of you, let us, give the microphone again or the chance to the viewers, not just the viewers, to my panelists here on board to tell us one or two things and how we can make Cameroon a better place through culture, through conventional education, through our writing skills, and through professional education. Beginning from you, the president of Nsoti Cameroon, what have you to say?
All right, thank you. I would just like to leave you with these words. I was taught, and primarily, that in every program you're taking, you should understand that there are three major things. There is the knowledge part of it, there is the skill part of it, and there is the moral value part of it. And today we are talking about nursing. You go to a lot of hospitals, you have patients who are crying foul. Please, you should understand that when you were studying nursing, there was moral value that you were supposed to learn. Try to put it in practice. Same things with our young teachers. You should understand that though there is a lot of temptation, I'm happy Mola is here, a lot of temptation with young teachers. When you teach, you see these young girls, your eyes are blinking. You should understand that there is a moral value that you were embedded and you're supposed to also teach them. If you are teaching a young girl, after class you go behind the school and you are talking to that girl, what are you instilling in the mind of that young girl? Please, it's a food of thought.
Thank you. And to you, Mr. Musa, one of those who have beyond the knife, maybe it's time for a word to shape the minds of those who are at the brink of registering into an academic institution.
Thank you very much, Mabel. It's a great pleasure being with you for approximately 2 hours. We want to say that the future is bright. Do your selection, go for it, you'll make it in life. Good luck to you.
Thank you. Do your selection, go for it, you make it in life. Mola, do you want to be the cultural part of it?
Yes, thank you so much. I just want to tell viewers that play on your drums, dancers will come. If you are creative, play on your drums, your dancers will come. Because if you don't play on your drums, you will not even have a dancer. But if you go and steal the village drum, you will not play it in the village. You play elsewhere. So don't steal the village drum. Play on it, your dancers will come.
Whatever that means, but if one thing I've learned today is play on your drums, dancers will come. And have a rhythm quite unique to you, and dancers will come. I have been Mabel Camden, thanking you, dear panelists, and thanking you, dear viewers. Until we meet again, stay in the company of Larry Etingene, who is going to be up next with High Prime.